Achilles versus Hector, the greatest duel in history. Blood on the sands of Troy, the ultimate clash of the Iliad. 10 years of a grueling, suffocating siege, thousands of burned ships, and mountains of corpses with nowhere left to bury them. This endless, sprawling war narrowed down in a single second to just 2 men standing before the Scaean gates. Achilles against Hector, the greatest butcher of Olympus versus the only decent man left in this dragged-out, bronze-clad slaughter. Strip away the late poetic glaze of the Iliad, look at the raw facts, and you realize Homer left us an incredibly savage narrative. This is no mere clash between the era's 2 most formidable warriors. This is the violent collision of 2 entirely polar worlds. Textbooks usually paint Achilles as a flawless, noble hero. Complete nonsense. Achilles is a walking weapon of mass destruction. A deeply, mentally unstable demigod who didn't sail to Troy for Greece or King Agamemnon, but solely to feed his own ego and a desperate thirst for eternal glory. Hector, on the other hand, is a mere mortal. A man who never wanted this war, but was forced to protect his home, his aging father, his wife, and his infant child from this raging psychopath. And now they stand face to face. Behind Hector, the barred gates of a doomed city. Before him, the smoldering campfires of the Greek horde, the point of no return. Why Achilles snapped. To understand why this fight became so deeply personal, rabid, and ruthless, we have to rewind the tape. For months, Achilles had been boycotting the war entirely. He sat defiantly in his tent, trading insults with the high command, completely indifferent to the fact that the Trojans were systematically burning the Greek fleet. That is, until Patroclus took the field, his closest companion, his sworn brother. Patroclus secretly donned Achilles' legendary armor to terrify the enemy and revive the spirits of the dying Greek army. In the chaos of the fray, he crossed paths with Hector. The Trojan prince cut the youth down, genuinely believing he had slain the mightiest of the Greeks. And that was the single, most fatal mistake of his life. Hector rips the heavy bronze helm from his fallen foe and freezes. It's not Achilles. The true monster is still asleep in his tent by the shore, but now he is going to wake up. And there is no turning back. The moment Achilles learned of Patroclus's death, his human sanity shattered instantly. Homer writes that his funeral wail was so horrific that the Trojan war horses in the rear panicked, shattering their chariots. The hero didn't just return to the front lines. He unleashed a total, uncompromising genocide. He slaughtered his enemies with such blind industrial ferocity that the local river, Scamander, choked on the sheer volume of bodies and burst its banks. The river god Xanthus rose against Achilles, suffocating from the blood fouling his waters, and nearly drowned the hero. But the demigod, driven by pure mania, was unstoppable. He didn't care about winning the war anymore. He wanted one specific throat, the psychological trap at the walls. Hector stands by the fortress walls entirely alone. From the heights of the towers, his father and mother beg him, "Retreat, hide behind the gates. You cannot survive this demon." But pride, the shame of facing his people, and a crushing sense of duty pin the Trojan prince to the spot. Then, Achilles appears on the horizon. He wears brand new armor, forged personally by the smith god Hephaestus, gleaming so intensely it looked as if a second sun had crashed into the earth. And here lies a detail often omitted in sanitized retellings, because it shatters the image of the perfect cinematic knight. Hector lost his nerve. Pure, raw human terror in the face of inevitable destruction. When you see a feral demigod sprinting at you full tilt, a monster whose skin is rumored to repel any blade, eyes burning with ancient malice, your mind breaks. Hector faltered, turned, and ran 3 laps around Troy. An exhausting, maddening marathon played out before the frozen gaze of both armies, one running for his bare life, the other pursuing relentlessly, choking on his own malice. The golden scales of Zeus. On Olympus, even the gods held their breath. The Thunderer brought out his scales of fate and cast the lots of both warriors. Hector's lot grew heavy and plummeted toward the dark realm of Hades, the solitude of the mortal. In that exact instant, Apollo, who had invisibly guarded Troy for years, turned his back and walked away. The Immortals abandoned Hector. He was left entirely alone with his doom. Hector stops. His lungs are bursting. Running around the walls forever is impossible. It is time to face the blade and die like a man. Pure bronze, anatomy of a lethal duel. Forget the stylized Hollywood swordplay where opponents leap gracefully across an arena. In the Bronze Age, combat was heavy, filthy, and agonizingly brief once you close the distance. First came the massive spears. Hector hurls his. The point strikes dead center against Achilles' shield. But the god-forged armor doesn't even buckle. The weapon clatters uselessly into the dust. Hector spins to his brother, Deiphobus, to grab a spare spear, only to realize with absolute horror that there is no one behind him. It was a cruel, divine illusion. The goddess Athena had taken the form of his brother just to lure the prince into a trap, deceive him, and force him to stop. A petty, rat-like maneuver by the Olympians, who simply wanted a front-row seat to a slaughter. Hector realizes he has been betrayed by everyone, men and gods alike. He draws his sword and charges in one final desperate assault like a cornered lion. Achilles didn't rush. He casually studied the armor on Hector's body. The ultimate irony, it was Achilles' own armor, stripped by Hector from the corpse of Patroclus. Achilles knew every gap, every flaw, and every vulnerable seam in that bronze better than anyone alive. The demigod bided his time for one perfect opening. As Hector lunged, Achilles delivered a flawless surgical thrust with his heavy ash spear. The point pierced straight through the throat, just above the collarbone, right where the artery runs. Yet, Achilles deliberately aimed so that the bronze tip missed the windpipe. Why? Because he wanted Hector to die slowly, drowning in his own blood, while remaining conscious long enough to hear the final, cruelest taunts of his executioner. Dying in the dirt, Hector begs him, "Do not feed my body to the dogs. Return it to my father for any ransom." Achilles' reply remains shocking in its savagery. "I wish my stomach would force me to chop your flesh and eat it raw for what you have done." Desecration and an unexpected peace. Hector breathed his last, but for Achilles, death wasn't enough. His manic fury didn't die with his enemy. What he did next horrified even the most battle-hardened Greek mercenaries. He pierced the dead prince's ankles, threaded leather straps through the torn tendons, lashed the body to his chariot, and whipped his horses into a gallop around the walls of Troy. Hector's head bashed against the rocks, his dark hair matting with the dirt and blood of the city's fallen guardian. Up on the battlements, his elderly mother and his wife, Andromache, holding their infant child, shrieked in untamed agony. Achilles dragged the mutilated corpse back to his camp and dumped it into the shoreline mud outside his tent, leaving it to be torn apart by wild dogs and vultures. Yet the myths tell us that the gods, even those who bitterly hated Troy, could not bear the sight. Aphrodite and Apollo secretly guarded Hector's body night and day, bathing it in ambrosia so it would not rot, decay, or be defiled by scavengers. The story has reached its darkest valley. Pride and vengeance have transformed Achilles into an absolute monster, stripped of any human form. But ahead lies the most powerful, emotionally shattering collapse of this entire 10-year war, the midnight visit of the white-haired, grief-stricken King Priam. The old man will secretly slip into the tent of his son's executioner, fall to his knees, and begin kissing the very hands that, just hours ago, reeked of his children's blood. And this grand reconciliation between two mortal enemies will happen just before Troy ignites and vanishes from the face of the earth forever. The saga continues. For the absolute finale of the legend and the ultimate fall of Troy, check out the dedicated video right here on our channel.